Alright, guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews coming at you guys with Zoo, Season 1, Episode 11 review. Alright, so this episode was pretty good. I thought that it was kind of a down episode compared to last episode. I think last episode we got, a lot of action, right? That was a really, action-filled episode, and then the ending of it was like one of the best endings of this show, of the series. So of an episode of the series. So yeah, that was great to see that episode. But yeah, so this one was good, I thought. But just not much stuff happened, right? I mean, I personally I was thinking, like I could probably summarize what all happened in this show, telling someone who hasn't watched it or whatever, in like 1 minute, right? And usually you can't do that with shows. A lot of stuff happens, especially with this show. Like a lot of stuff happens in each episode. So, but this episode they kind of took a step back, and this one was a little bit slower. I did like a lot of the character interaction, and obviously we had a big scene in this one as well, kind of an emotional scene. Well, actually, I would say two, but mainly one big one. So yeah, I thought there was a lot of good stuff. But yeah, just it was a slower episode, and I mean they kind of had to, right, after the kind of ending that they had last week. So I thought it was appropriate. But anyways, I'll get to the recap now. It's a little bit shorter than usual. So yeah, like I said, not a lot of stuff happens, so that's why. And then at the end, I'll share my thoughts with a rating and some other stuff. So yeah, there it is. So let's get into this. So basically, we start off Clem walking around the plane. She's just waking up from the tank, as we saw last episode, and she finds the whole team, really like all, out on the floor, just laying there. And it's kind of, the aftermath of what Abigail did. So we see everything. The only thing I would say here is Jackson is moved, right? I mean, he's not where he was when Abigail shot him. Abe is on the stairs, which he wasn't there when Abigail stabbed him, and he was laying there on the ground, bleeding out. So I don't know how he got up and got to the stairs in time. Also, Mitch was on the staircase, already down, but Abigail shot him at the top, and he just fell straight back. And Jamie and Max were out of place as well. So I don't know if this was just really bad editing. Maybe they took a break between episodes and they didn't like figure this out. I don't know. Or maybe it's purposeful to just like show that they were still living, right? They weren't dead. That they can move still. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think with this show. I'm not sure. It may have just been bad editing, but I just wanted to point that out. So then Clementine finds Sam and Sam Parker and lets him out of the cell. So I don't know. I was like a little, off about that decision, right? Because we know he's working with Abigail. But he cares more about Clementine than I think anything else, even more than Abigail. So he's gonna do what she wants. So then Clementine calls these paramedics to come to the runway to help them, and Dariella, over the phone at IADG, tells Clem not to open the door for them, and Sam's just about to do it. She stops her right in time, and the guy dies right, right at the doorway, and we see that same thing that happened with the other guy, sorry, who was in the mask last episode with Logan. The blood just sort of like squirted, right? Squirted out, and then he died. So yeah, that was a little bit of a gruesome sight there. And then of course we found out that the air is contaminated with spores there in Seoul, and they won't be able to go outside or open any windows. So then Clemens and Sam take fluid from that healing tank that she was in to make a substance to basically save all the team. Just for the short term though, not, totally healing them. But she thinks, they drown them, I think, or something. Then it should help the healing process or speed it up or something. And I mean, I don't think this is realistic at all. But, it is what it is, right? So yeah, so this basically, lets them walk and kind of get their wits about them again. So Clementine's plan works. This liquid ends up working on all of them, and they kind of get up. And yeah, I just thought it was like unrealistic because, these guys all got shot, right? Pretty painful shots. And I mean, you could probably even die from it, especially Abe. Like, those stab wounds, I don't know how he's still alive, but I'm glad he is. So yeah, that's something to mention. But yeah, then they just got up and they're kind of functioning fine. I did like some of the stuff with Abe though and Mitch, how they were kind of hurting. They did show a lot of hurt though, right? Like the characters were kind of limping a little bit, so that was good. But Jackson just got up right away and he was fine. So I don't know. I thought that was a little unrealistic. So then the team finds out that Jamie didn't turn Duncan back into Mitch when she could have, and they're all upset at her, especially Mitch, because that's not cool, right? Why wouldn't she turn him back? And the rest of the group didn't really want Abigail to be killed at that point, especially Jackson. So he's not happy with her. But I have to say, I still support what she did. I think she made a good decision. She stuck with it. She was dedicated to it, and I think it was a really smart way to get Duncan to do it. So that's just my opinion there. I still support what she did. And yeah, so they find out also then that they only have 2 or 3 hours until the plane's pressurization that Clem set up gives way to the spores. And the IADG team is coming in 5 hours. So they're about 2 hours off, I think Max says. And yeah, so they have to find out here how to get that extra 2 hours on this plane, or else they're all gonna die. So then all of a sudden, Clementine's water breaks, and that was just an awkward scene. I don't know, it was weird. Like just all of a sudden they're talking, then you just hear the water. I don't know. It was kind of an awkward scene, but it was kind of funny at the same time. And then yeah, so we see then after that Jackson locks Jamie in that cell downstairs. Kind of ironic because that's where she locked that Shepherd from a few episodes ago, and now she's in the cell. So yeah, he locks her in the cell downstairs, and the cell's right next to the pressure gauge that Jackson sets up. And so this kind of just shows, he doesn't trust her anymore. And also, we know that he didn't want Abigail dead. So he, kind of has, some hatred towards her as well for doing what she did. And yeah, so basically he just leaves her there to with the pressure gauge. And then she's supposed to, tell them when it turns red or whatever. So, yeah. So it's kind of an interesting thing there. And then she says at the end, all this time you've been trying to save her. And I think that's totally true. I think Jackson is, trying to save Abigail from the type of person she is. He doesn't see that that's really her. So, and I think that's a huge problem. And I think Jackson has had that problem in the past with things, and it doesn't end up well. So I really support Jamie in that, and I think she's totally right. So then Mitch and Max fix Abe's stab wound after, he says he can't breathe a little bit. So this was good. Good to see, a little bit of a after effect, because, I mean, this guy got stabbed twice, and they were pretty good stab wounds. But he's a pretty big guy, too, right? So you kind of have to take that into consideration as well. Yeah, right? So, I mean, he's a big guy, so maybe he wouldn't be as affected as maybe a smaller guy would. I don't know. But, yeah, so this was kind of just a funny scene because they end up stinging him with the scorpion named Steve to kind of because he keeps moving right when they're trying to fix him up, and so they just kind of subdue him with this sting from Steve the scorpion. So that was kind of funny. And then also in that scene they talk about Mitch with the pillow talk with Jamie or something, so that was kind of funny. And yeah, so that was just a funny scene there. And then they fix his wound with a credit card taped on. Like, are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. I don't know if this was like supposed to be comedy, because like that's not realistic at all. Like, there's no way a credit card with tape could fix something like that. I don't know. I was just like freaking out. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, whatever. But anyway, it was a funny scene though, if that's what they were trying to accomplish. It was funny. But it wasn't realistic at all. So anyways, so then Mitch goes and talks with Jamie, and this was a very emotional scene. I thought it was one of the best ones this episode, probably the second best this episode. And yeah, so basically Jamie apologizes to him. She shows a lot of remorse, for what she did. She truly is sorry, I believe. And Mitch gets really angry with her, right? He gets, really upset, and says he's not mad at her because he's not anything at her anymore. And I thought the acting here from Billy Burke and Kristen Connolly was amazing. This scene was very, very good. Honestly, I really liked it. And for Mitch, to say these type of things to Jamie is heartbreaking, right? So because they obviously both kind of love each other at this point. Even Mitch still does, right? So yeah, so then he tells her about the dreams he had of him and her in the tank when he was gone for 10 years. And then this resonated with me for a lot of things. I thought this was very, very well written, and I thought this was great delivery by Billy Burke. Mitch says, whenever there's a little bit of light, darkness just swoops back in. So I thought this was very, very true in this episode. I thought that was sort of the main theme of this episode. There's just so many things in the show. They get, one step ahead and 2 steps back. One step ahead, two, you know what I mean? And I said that before in reviews, I think, for the show, right? It just happened. So I thought that was a great theme for the whole episode. So true. And he says now that Jamie is the darkness to him. And that's a really harsh thing to say, right? So Jamie's really upset. Of course, she's crying, and yeah, so pretty harsh thing to say for Mitch, but obviously he kind of has a right to, because Jamie kind of screwed him over there and didn't turn him back, right? There's no good reason for that. So, well, there is, right? But he doesn't understand that. So, anyways. So then, search team finds this beacon in Tokyo. And the search team is the IADG team, and it ends up being a lot bigger than they expected. It's actually like really, really, it's huge, right? It's really tall and big, and it has an impenetrable wall. Basically, like they try to climb up to it, and you can't. There's a wall set up around it, so that was interesting. And Jackson basically tells IDG, or I think it was Dariella, over the phone that maybe if they cut the power, then this beacon won't work, and they can save the city or whatever. So Dariella tells the team tries to cut the wire that's hanging down from the top, and they cut it, and then there's a big explosion, and basically the cameras go down completely. It's just static, and then the beacon lights up again on their map they see. So it didn't work at all. And Logan says, they just lost the city of Tokyo, and obviously that 7-man rescue team, or rescue search team. So yeah, big thing there. Pretty sad, to see more of those guys die. They're just trying to help and do their best. So yeah. That was tough. So obviously that's not a way to kill him. And I mean, I think Jackson should be a little bit guilty there. I mean, he just cost the city of Tokyo, really, right? But he was just trying to help as well, so it's not totally his fault, I wouldn't say. But yeah. So then after that, Jackson's kind of feeling guilty a little bit. He's kind of down in the dumps, and he calls Tessa. So I don't know. I think it's a mixed blessings about having her back. I thought that she'd be gone for a while, and she was gone for, I think, episode 6, so she was gone for quite a few, 4 episodes, and I like that little break. I like that they brought her back as well, but I don't know, I would have rather maybe her come back in the finale and save them from something. That would have been more unexpected and good, but she's back now already, so it is what it is. So then he asks her to find his sister and stop her, since they're stuck on this plane in Seoul. And basically, we see that Jackson's basically given up. Practically he's given up. He says, he's lost the fight against her. He can't win. And yeah, so, he's basically down and out. Because he thinks that the sporters are going to get in the plane. They're going to die in a couple hours. And he's just, cost the city of Tokyo, right, with all the hybrids released. So yeah, he's kind of given up. So that's a sad scene for Jackson to give up. I mean, he never gives up. So that was kind of a rock bottom moment there. And I thought it was cool that they incorporated Tessa there. So then Clem starts having contractions, and Mitch takes her downstairs. Max says the contractions are too fast, and her heart rate is also too fast. It's going it's not usual. It's unusual. And Mitch tries to soothe her a little bit, and it doesn't work at all. I mean, he's telling her like stories about stuff, and that was just a really funny scene. Just classic Mitch, right? That guy. Yeah, so I thought it was funny. And then all of a sudden, Sam comes in playing this song on this little stereo, and it's from when Clem and him were in Boulder, Colorado together, and where they conceived the baby. And it actually works and calms her down a little bit. And Mitch's facial expressions are priceless. When Sam comes in with this music and he's playing it, he goes up to Clem and they start talking. That was so funny just to see his face. I mean, he didn't say one thing, just his face said it all. It was hilarious. He's just like, really, like this guy, whatever. So yeah, that was good. So then, now this is a little bit out of order, but I just decided to, put this together. So basically, Abe forces Clem into labor after he finds out about that blood clot that's happening. So that's a serious issue or whatever. So then Clem, is kind of struggling, and Mitch kind of gives her the last, little confidence that she needs. And she ends up getting through it and has the baby successfully. So the birth of the baby is successful. And then we, hear the sound of the baby crying, and it kind of, resonates throughout the whole plane. And that was cool, I think Jackson heard it, Jamie heard it, and Max all heard it, and they weren't even in that room, right? So that was really cool to see that. And then we also learn after the baby's born that the clot has passed. So I'm not sure why, they would put that in the storyline. Maybe just so that Abe would force her into labor. I don't know. But I thought that was kind of, unnecessary. And, all in all, the baby and Clem are okay. So that was the main part of that. So then Tessa calls Jackson from the IADG, and she tells him that he's connected to his father and sister, and he should be looking at the code a different way. He's just looking at it as Jackson, but he should look at it as Jackson Oz. So then Jackson thinks of something, his dad used to say, an old joke about like an aardvark or something, and he says it out loud to his computer, and the code unlocks the software. So this is kind of like the secret, the password basically for all of it, and he ends up figuring it out with help from Tessa. And basically the software is basically the whole operating for these beacons, the beacon system that Abigail has. So it's a big breakthrough. Everyone's, pretty excited. And then all of a sudden the computer just crashes because he says, it's not strong enough to support the software. The processor's not big enough or something. So I thought that was very realistic. I like that they added that he can't just, tap in from a laptop somewhere and access it, right? I mean, that was really good. I like the way they wrote that one out. But nonetheless, still a big jump in recent stuff. So so this was a good scene as well. Max tells Jamie he's going to switch the filters on the planes after he gives that idea. Mitch gives that idea. And it's kind of, a goodbye moment between the two. They both know that Max is probably going to die in doing it. Jamie says, you can't do that. You're at too much of a risk or whatever. So he decides to do it anyways. And, and he has to do it, right, to save the plane and whatever. So Max goes and switches the filters, and he does it really quick, too. So I thought that maybe he was okay, but he ends up that he wasn't. He gets exposed to the spores, and, he successfully switches them, but then, he falls over. But he starts the air, right? So it's, starting and working well, and then he, falls backwards. And yeah, so that was a little unfortunate, and it was a great music overlap I thought as well, with Clem giving birth, and then the idea that Mitch said earlier comes back about the oil or whatever on that filter. So I thought that was really good. The way that was done, where Max kind of switched the filter, he heard the baby crying, and then the music was kind of playing, and they were going back and forth with Clem giving birth and him doing that. So I thought that was really good. So then, kind of the last scene of this episode, which is an emotional one. So Clem asks, "Where's Grandpa?" And that was a tough. Just a tough line, right? I mean, because we know what happened to him. So then Mitch goes and looks for him, and he actually finds him on the ground. And Max is still conscious somehow. He's still kind of, in and out, right, of consciousness. And, he says, "Say hi to the baby for me," or whatever. And Mitch says, "No, you're going to see him," or whatever. He's kind of in denial, I guess, a little bit. So Mitch takes him down to see the baby. And Max sits down in the chair beside Clem and holds the baby in his arms, and he's really emotional, right, and really invested, in this baby, and so happy for Clem and Mitch, and all that, and but we find out, he's slowly dying, right. So from the spores. So really emotional moment. No one really knows that except for Mitch and us as viewers, and of course Max. But yeah, so he's seconds away from passing away, and he gets to hold his great grandkid, really his baby, or not his baby, Clem's baby, and yeah, so that was a really warm moment to see that. He's really emotional, and he's crying a little bit, and then he slowly kind of fades away little bit, and then eventually he stops moving. So yeah, hard scene to watch, and we get a character death, and honestly, my opinion, I'd never expected that. I never expected that Max would be the one to die outside of that Abigail aftermath, right? Like I thought Abe was done for, right? Last review I said I thought he was done for, but yeah, it ends up being Max that goes, and it wasn't even from Abigail, right? So they basically all survive Abigail, but anyways, yeah. So he ends up dying there in the chair, and kind of Mitch takes the baby from him once he's gone, and everyone's very upset. Clem's upset, Mitch is upset, and just a sad scene to watch. So yeah, really unfortunate to see Max go. I really liked the character, but I feel like he served his purpose on the show. I felt like, that was kind of the end of his storyline, and I thought he went out amazingly. I mean, saving the whole team there with the plane, going out like a hero. So I thought, there was no better way for him to go, and especially being the kind of guy he is, to go out that way was something, admirable as well. So yeah, it was a great way to go out for Max, and sad scene to watch, but I thought it was very appropriate, and a good end to the episode. So now I'll get to my rating for this episode. So my rating for this episode is going to be a 3.9 out of 5. I thought, yeah, like I said at the beginning, I thought it would, nothing really, that big happen. Max's death was obviously a big focus of this one. Clem had the baby, so that was, that was kind of the main basis of it. Jackson ended up, getting the software, so that was good. But yeah, I mean, not many locations. Team's kind of trapped on this plane, and they can't take off. And then we see the IADG, and that was about it, right? So it was sort of just a lot of dialogue and a lot of the team working things out. And also, I just like to say, when Mitch says whenever there's a bit of light, darkness just swoops back in, and that was so true in the way with Max, right? Clem has the baby. Everything's, happy, everything's light, there's a little bit of light now, that they've had this baby in this kind of world, that babies aren't possible, right? So that was, a big light, really warm moment, and then Max ends up dying, right after this baby's born, and that's darkness just swoops back in, right? So I thought that was really cool, right? The way that worked out, and I thought that was a great theme in this episode, the way they did that. Not sure if they even did that purposely, but I feel like, they obviously did, but, yeah, I thought that was great, just to kind of resonate back with Max's death, so that was great. Yeah, I liked, the emotional scenes here with Mitch and Jamie, and then Max's death at the end. I like the way they kind of brought Tessa back. I would have liked to, like I said, see her in the finale more, though, than now. I think it was a little early to bring her back, but we only got 2 episodes left, so I don't blame them. And nice to see Sam working with the team again. But I think they need to keep a more careful watch on him in the future. I think that's going to kind of backfire for them. But yeah, so yeah, but just some more like unrealistic stuff in this one. I mean, that the whole team is fine. I would have liked to see a little bit more aftermath there, and I just would have liked to see some more action. Some more stuff happen this episode. So it was just a slower episode. 3.9. It could have been a little bit higher, to be honest. But yeah, that's just sort of how I felt after I watched it. So, anyways. That'll do it for the rating, I think. My favorite character for this one is going to be Clementine Lewis. The actor who plays her is actually Gracie Dezeni, or Denzi, or yeah, Dezeni. And so, yeah, I don't think I've talked about her yet, but I thought she did great. Grace, like, as an actor, playing, Clementine in this episode, really. She gave birth, and, she went through a lot of stuff this episode, you know. She's like basically full term pregnant, right, at the time, and she's able to save the whole team with help from Sam. She comes up with the idea for it, and even when she has the baby, she's so selfless. She says, to Abe, take a sample for him, and see if he can save the world. So I thought it was just great, the character itself, and I thought the acting was amazing. It felt really real, right? And I don't think the actor Gracie has went through, being pregnant. I could be wrong, but I don't think she has, had any kids. So I thought, her acting for it was great. I thought it was, really realistic. So yeah, I thought it was good, and I thought she showed a lot of, good emotion throughout this one too. And she had some funny lines too. Kind of turned out like her dad a little bit, Clementine. But anyways, so yeah, I thought she was a good character for this one. And I don't know, I think it was kind of focused around her, to be honest. This episode, her giving birth was a big thing for the show. So anyways, and I'm glad that we finally got to see it. I'm glad they didn't wait to the finale, because that would have been a little bit long. Because we found out she was pregnant, I think, episode 2 or 3 of this season. So, right? So, I mean, it's been a while. So, anyways, that'll just about do it for my review of this episode. 2 episodes left of Zoo, and then we're at the end of the season. And from what I've heard, guys, I think this may be the end of Zoo. I could be totally wrong, but I have been reading some stuff, and it sounds like, this might be the end. I'm not sure what they would do for a season 4 at this point. I think they've kind of exhausted all the storylines, unless they keep this Abigail thing a little bit longer, maybe into season 4. But I'm sure, the cast would come back for season 4. I'm just not sure where they would go with it, and if, CBS still is in love with it, but especially, Salvation gets renewed, then maybe that may replace Zoo's kind of attention a little bit. So, that's what it is. But we'll have to see. Still 2 episodes left to enjoy of this show, and hopefully there is more, right? I hope there is more. But from what I've heard, there may not be. So, anyways, we'll have to enjoy it for how long it lasts. And we'll have to see. So anyways, thanks for watching this video, and thanks for the support on the Narcos video lately, and some other reviews. So really appreciate it. So anyways, guys, we'll see you next week for Zoo Season 1, Episode 12.
Today's gonna be the day that they're gonna give it back to you. By now you should have somehow realized what you gotta do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you.